Most people think the system is failing them. They think something went wrong. They think the economy broke. They think the rules changed. They think life got harder for no reason. That belief is comforting, because if the system is broken, then your lack of progress isn't your fault. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The system isn't broken. It's functioning exactly as designed, just not for you. And once you understand that, everything changes. From the outside, the system looks fair. Go to school, work hard, be patient, follow the rules, stay consistent, and eventually you'll make it. That's a story. But if that story were true, most people would already be free. They're not. They're tired, stressed, overworked, financially trapped, emotionally drained, and quietly wondering how they fell behind without noticing. That doesn't happen by accident, it happens by structure. And the system rewards predictability, not potential. It doesn't care how intelligent you are, it doesn't care how much effort you put in, it doesn't care how many sacrifices you make, it cares about one thing only: how reliably it can extract value from you. Time, attention, labor, compliance. If you give those consistently, the system considers you successful, even if your life doesn't. This is why people feel stuck even while doing everything right. They followed the advice, they played the game, they stayed disciplined, they stayed patient, and yet nothing changed. Same bills, same ceiling, same stress, same future, just delayed. That's not failure, that's alignment. They align perfectly with a system that was never designed to make them powerful. The most dangerous thing about the system isn't that it's unfair, it's that it feels normal. It wraps itself in routine, in habits, in responsibilities, in obligations. You wake up, you go to work, you handle your tasks, you unwind, you repeat. And because it's familiar, you assume it's right. But familiarity isn't truth, it's conditioning. The system doesn't need you to be miserable. It just needs you to be busy. Busy enough to not question, busy enough to not redesign, busy enough to not step back and see the full picture. Because the moment you zoom out, the illusion weakens. You start asking different questions, not how do I work harder, but who actually benefits from this? And that question is dangerous. And look at how success is framed: climb the ladder, earn promotions, increase income gradually, upgrade your lifestyle just enough to stay motivated. That's not freedom. That's dependency with nicer furniture. The system doesn't want you broke. It wants you invested. Debt, bills, commitments, social expectations, all carefully calibrated to keep you moving forward but never upward fast enough to escape. And this is why people panic when they slow down. Stillness feels wrong. Rest feels irresponsible. Thinking feels unproductive. Because the system trained you to equate motion with progress, even when that motion leads nowhere. Here's the part most people miss. The system doesn't suppress you directly. It doesn't need to. It just rewards certain behaviors so consistently that alternative paths feel risky, unrealistic, or irresponsible. And over time, you internalize the limits. You start policing yourself. You say things like, that's not realistic. That's too risky. I should be grateful. Maybe later, once things stabilize. And just like that, the system no longer needs to control you. You do it for it. And this is the quiet trap. You're not being held back by force. You're being held back by incentives. And incentives shape behavior far more effectively than rules. The system thrives on people who are capable but contained, smart enough to produce, not free enough to leave, ambitious enough to keep chasing, not aware enough to change the game. That's the sweet spot. And most people live there their entire lives. But here's the thing, every system has blind spots, and the current one has a massive one. It struggles to deal with people who understand leverage. Not hustle, not grind, not effort, leverage. The ability to separate output from time, the ability to create once and distribute infinitely, the ability to think in systems instead of tasks. That's where cracks appear. The system is built for linear players. You trade hours for money, you climb step by step, you wait your turn. But leverage isn't linear, it's exponential. And exponential outcomes don't fit neatly into controlled structures. That's why they're discouraged, not banned, not forbidden, just subtly framed as unrealistic. Notice how unconventional paths are talked about. They're called luck, timing, outliers, exceptions, anything to prevent you from studying them seriously. Because once you realize patterns exist, the myth collapses, and myths are what keep systems stable. Here's a hard truth. The system doesn't fear rebellion, it fears understanding. Angry people burn out, confused people comply, but people who see clearly, they redesign. This is why most advice feels shallow. Stay positive. Work harder. Trust the process. Give it time. None of that addresses structure. It just numbs awareness. Real progress starts when you stop asking how to win harder inside the system and start asking where the system is weak. Where does it leak value? Where does it fail to track contribution? Where does it struggle to price outcomes accurately? That's where opportunity lives. The system is excellent at managing effort. It's terrible at managing asymmetric value. It knows how to price hours, it struggles to price ideas, it understands attendance, it doesn't understand impact, and that gap is widening. This is why people who think differently feel out of place early on. They don't fit cleanly into existing lanes. They're too analytical for blind obedience, too independent for rigid structures, too strategic for pure hustle, so they feel lost, but they're not behind. They're misaligned. Alignment matters more than effort. You can push as hard as you want in the wrong direction and still end up nowhere. That's not laziness, that's physics. The moment things change is the moment you stop asking for permission. Not permission from people, permission from the internal rule book, the system installed in you, the one that says be realistic. Don't get ahead of yourself. Stick to what you know. Play it safe. That rule book was never written for your freedom. It was written for stability. Stability for the system, predictability for institutions, consistency for employers, compliance for structures, not sovereignty for individuals. Here's the shift. You stop trying to escape overnight. You stop fantasizing about shortcuts. Instead, you start building parallel systems, quietly, deliberately, strategically. You don't announce, you don't argue, you don't rebel publicly, you reposition. You learn how attention works, you learn how distribution works, you learn how psychology works, you learn how leverage compounds. And slowly the system's grip weakens, not because you fought it, but because you stop feeding it exclusively. Most people wait for permission to change. They wait for confidence, they wait for certainty, they wait for external validation, but those things never come from systems designed to retain you. They come from action taken outside approved lanes. The system doesn't collapse when people wake up, it just loses its monopoly over their future, and that's enough. If this feels uncomfortable, good. Discomfort's a signal that a belief is dissolving, and belief, not circumstance, is what keeps most people trapped. The system isn't broken, it's just not built for independent thinkers, which means one thing. If you feel like something is off, you're probably right. And if you feel like you don't quite belong inside the default path, that's not a weakness, that's early awareness. And the question isn't, can you succeed inside the system? You can. The real question is, do you want to be owned by it while you do? And once you see this, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, you stop playing blindly. You start playing deliberately, on your terms. If this video hit something you've been feeling but couldn't articulate, that wasn't an accident. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're not failing, you're just early to a realization most people never reach. And what you do with that awareness is what determines everything that comes next.